what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom Marmer.
Hi, everybody.
No costumes today. We're back to our semi-normal. God, Halloween was this week, which was fun but exhausting.
Yes. Still recovering in a lot of ways.
So we're back with another episode of Found Footage Fridays. This is an interesting one. I'm very anxious to hear Tom's thoughts on this. So I'm going to let Tom tell us what we're talking about today.
Well, this is one a lot of people talk about recently. If you haven't heard of it, it is called Behind. There's a story behind this, but apparently I'm learning Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which, as the description says, it's the next great psycho horror slasher, has given a documentary crew exclusive access to his life as he plans his reign of terror over the sleepy town of Glen Echo. And it's just as it sounds. It's about Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers type slasher, a fictional world where these characters presumably actually exist.
Real, yeah.
Or actually are real. This guy wants to be the next one. And it almost is it's definitely mockumentary style. It's, I would describe this as we've termed before, people found footage, right?
Trademark.
Trademark, that's us. It's definitely in that category. And it's as if this is a real guy who just wants to harmlessly be the next slasher villain.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you want to add anything to that? What is it about the title? What is it about the title in you? There's something.
I have a small story. So when you have a smart TV, at least for Roku, I don't know about other ones that aren't Roku, but on the Roku, you can go under search, put in what you're looking for, and then it will tell you all the apps that film or TV show is available on.
Yeah, I have that, yeah.
Yeah, so I put in Behind the Mask, and then it pre-populated like the rest of it. So I selected that and it gave me some options. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to pay to watch it. But then it showed that it was available on Pluto for free with ads. And I was like, oh, why not? So I started watching. So I go over and I saw, this is so stupid. I selected Pluto, like opens, and it played automatically. Great, fine. And it comes up and it's these guys are interviewing. There is these interviews with all these different guys about the making of this Batman movie. And I was like, okay, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is how it starts. I don't know. Maybe any moment they're going to introduce him and he's somebody who worked on this film and this is all related. Fun fact, I love Batman. So I got really excited. And then it got to like the 10-minute mark and I was like, it's called Behind the Mask, the making of Batman, blah, blah, blah. It totally, my TV totally lied to me and had me watching the wrong thing for like 10 minutes. And I was like, this can't be the right movie. So I had to go back out of it. And then I ended up renting it on Amazon. But I was like,
that's what I did. Yeah.
What? So
this was my second viewing of this. I saw this a while ago.
Yeah, this is my first.
Yeah, but a lot of people talk about this one.
Yes.
I would describe it as more, it has to be a higher budget found footage movie than your traditional found footage movie. I would say, just based on, without spoiling some of the casting choices, has to be higher budget just based on them alone. So, but we'll spoil that in a few minutes.
Yeah, and this came out in like 2006 or something, right? It's old.
2006, 2007, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting because I don't think I had even heard of it until recently, so I'm not sure in where it was, what form it was released. I can't imagine it was in theaters.
Probably not.
But it's high quality for found footage, for sure. The acting, the production value,
This was one that a couple of people in our Found Footage Live had brought up.
mentioned. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
people. There are a lot of people who really like this one.
Okay. Yeah.
So we got to do our ratings, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I am going to give this movie a solid 7.
Okay.
7 tapes out of 10.
Okay. For me, I really wish that I could rank them separately because the first half for me was better than the second half. And
Okay.
I want to be able to rate it accordingly, but I can't. So my middle ground for this is a 5.5.
Interesting. Okay.
Now I will say this. If I didn't like the second half as much, if I rated just the first half, that would probably be like a 6.5 or a 7.
Yeah. My least, I guess, my least favorite part, but also it's the least found footagey part would be the
Yep.
end of the movie.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's explained why they do it that way. I think there's things they do earlier on in the movie that make it somewhat okay in my brain that they ended the movie that way.
Hmm.
Um, but I will explain that when we
Yeah.
spoil a little further. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So I think as far as like Unspoiled, um, it's essentially a movie about making slashers. I feel like
Yeah.
it's definitely a commentary on what goes into those films, how they set up, like the just this general overall planning around making a slasher film and making it effective. It's got,
Yep.
it covers a lot of the tropes. It covers from things like doors closing unexpectedly to shadows and thinking you see something that's not there to nudity. Like it covers like all the tropes,
Yeah.
all the things that are normally there. And those were the parts that I loved. It was very meta in that way, which I loved.
Very,
Um,
very meta.
I think yes. And I think that the guy that plays Leslie Vernon is like hysterically like believable. Like
He's so good. Yeah.
he's very good. But and I don't know if this was the same for you, but like you almost like kind of forget that he's like also not being a very good person. Like he's very charismatic
Yeah.
and funny and smart and like you're just kind of like, "Oh, that's right. He's kind of like the villain." So and I think all of the casting in general, I don't think any of the casting was weak. I think the characters that were maybe played a little weaker were done so intentionally. So I
Yep.
think that they did what they were supposed to do. So I thought all of that was really good.
Yeah. I mean, he plays this character like he's
Yeah.
just any regular guy being interviewed about his job, right? And their reaction to him, as at least at the beginning, is like they're interviewing somebody who's just doing their job, which really does work. But it also makes it, yeah, you said meta. It makes it comical
Mhm.
by nature at the
Yeah.
beginning, but it works, and I really like that about it.
Yes, I
It's
agree. I
very
agree.
unique.
Yeah.
It's very like it's the idea, the concept of this
Hmm.
I don't think has ever been done. It's really cool,
I agree.
and clearly, if you want your slasher movie with your found footage, this is it. I think this is the only one. So I think,
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's yeah. I think it's as far as looking at it as what it set out to do. I think it does that really well. Um, and I of course loved the cameos that we get and it,
oh
like
yeah,
those were really fun. And I forgot one of them in particular. I think maybe you had told me or someone had told me that that one was in there, but I forgot. And so when it happened, I was like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that. That was kind of fun.
there's
Um,
at least two big cameos in this.
why was I thinking three for some
Well,
reason? You might be
there's
right.
there's an actress in it who's not everyone will recognize, but I don't
Oh,
know.
I reckon.
Probably
Yes.
you
Um,
recognize the main actress.
oh, the main?
Yes, the reporter.
No.
See, you didn't recognize everybody.
I thought you were talking about the person in the library when you said her.
Well, everyone would recognize who that
They
is.
better. No, hold on. I want to know who the. Well, I guess we'll talk about it in a second anyway.
Sure.
So
Yep.
go ahead. Yeah. So I think it. I really liked the premise. I like stuff like that. I think we've talked about this, like the mockumentary stuff. Like I really like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt very like Mark Duplass in Creep, his character. Actually, I know you don't like. You're not a fan of Creep. I am. And it
I know.
really is the same sort of movie at the beginning. The content is different, the concept, but Creep is a guy who's a serial killer that wants a movie made about himself. And it
Yeah,
almost
I
is
think this.
comical and very
Yeah,
believable. This is
yeah.
a literal slasher villain. So I guess it's a little more extreme in this case.
Yeah, I think this does it better. I
Oh,
mean,
it does.
there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Eh, I rate Creep as a better film
Well,
on the
yeah, but
whole.
you like Creep. I don't like Creep.
Yeah,
I think I don't know. I think because this doesn't really attempt to be scary or unsettling in the normal ways, whereas
yeah,
Creep has moments where it is genuinely trying to be creepy and it for me
yes.
failed. So I think that's the difference. Is like
Okay.
this like Creep went for both, whereas I felt like, just my opinion, I felt like Leslie Vernon was just mostly comical. Like I didn't find
It
it to
was
be,
mostly, yeah.
it didn't take itself serious on pretty much like any level, I don't think.
No, the end a little bit, I guess, but
Yeah, the ending would be the closest to like a series, but even that's like
yeah.
silly. Like there's some stuff that's pretty silly in that. But yeah.
So can we spoil?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So who's the main? Who's the main? I don't know who that is. That redhead?
She's from a very famous movie from my childhood where she plays a child in it.
Huh.
Not a horror movie.
Yeah, she's one of this. Is she one of the sisters in Home Alone?
She is.
Yeah.
So you did know.
After thinking about it really hard, the face was what I had to picture. Like I was like, okay,
Yeah, she's one of the sisters in Home Alone. Yeah.
yeah.
This is the only other thing I've ever seen her in. So besides those movies. Yeah.
Well, I liked her. I thought she was good in
She's
this.
very good. I think
She's
everyone
very
was
convincing. I like this
good.
weird, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I think like sometimes there tends to be this over romanticizing of serial killers, right?
Yes.
Like I think that's very evident that we do that in society, right? And so there was these weird moments where she looked at him and I almost was like, is that where they're going with this? Like, is she gonna
I'm not sure that they weren't going there with her.
It's but isn't it interesting that it was like both? It was like
Yeah.
she had those moments where she looked at him, like the holding of the hand, these
Oh
like
yeah.
close moments. But then there was moments like she was like, we can't let him do this. This is awful. Like they're just
Well,
these things. It was like she was like at war with herself because I think she was drawn to him because he was
yeah.
so charismatic and charming and all these things. I don't know. That's just
I think she was drawn to him, and that's why they needed to give her a reason beyond just being a reporter for sticking with this. Like when
yeah,
he
that's
knew he
true.
was about to start killing people.
That's true.
So, and so they gave her, she was conflicted. I think whether or not she really had romantic feelings for him, who the heck knows? But they definitely like hinted at that.
Yeah. And then so the other three bigger cameos is Robert England,
Oh yes, yep.
which was fantastic.
He was
Like
great.
loved it.
Well, he's always great. Yeah,
He's fantastic. And the other big one for me, especially for people who know how I feel about this movie, was Zelda from
yeah,
Poltergeist. And
yes.
then the other guy, I don't remember his name. Hold
There's
on.
somebody else.
Scott Wilson. Scott Wilson is in a ton of horror movies. But he's also Herschel in The Walking Dead.
Oh right, yes,
He
yep.
plays the friend, whatever you want to call that guy.
Yes, he was very good in this
Those
too.
were yes, he was fun. I really liked his character a lot. So those were big. That's big. Like
Yeah. Oh, those characters were great. So they played it off so believably,
God,
like
they did.
they as if they were simultaneously these just old friends, and like it would if you didn't listen to the words they were saying, they could have been
Yeah,
talking about anything, you know,
yeah,
yeah, at some gathering of friends. Like it really
I agree.
was fantastic.
Yeah,
Really, really original.
it's
Yeah,
very
I
original.
would have rated this higher, I think, if not for the moments that they step out of found footage. And I think because it's a mockumentary, they
Mhm.
were doing what I think was an attempt at, like, in some documentaries where they do like reenactments,
Reenactments. I thought the same thing.
which is
Yeah.
what I think that's what they were going for. Earlier on in the movie, I thought it worked because it was seemed more obvious that's what they were doing. But then at the end of the movie, it
The
just sort
whole
of
last light. Yeah.
it's like the found footage, the cameras are gone, and it's just a movie,
It's just the slasher movie.
just a slasher movie, and that's why I ding it a little bit. Let me
Yeah.
bring up my notes. Um, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think we
think
said
I
all that.
think for me, like the big and we've talked about this too. This comes up all the time is endings really do for me like and I know a lot of people have endings that have ruined movies, but I'm really weird about endings that I didn't really like ruining things for me. And like this wasn't ruined. I still really like the first half. I can definitely appreciate it being very original because it is. And I will tell you as a film and this is actually how I knew it was older because Zelda
She's
Rubinstein,
not a
the
lot.
one
Yeah.
that played, yeah, she's not alive anymore.
No. Yeah.
So I was like, how old is this movie? And that was when I went and looked. And I was like, oh, so my point in saying that is time wise, this holds up really well. This
Yeah.
does not, in my opinion, look like a 2006 found footage movie.
No, it looks new. It
It
looks new.
looks new.
In fact, I thought it was. When I told you I saw
Yeah.
this a while ago, a year ago, earlier this
Yeah.
year, and I don't know that I knew at the time. I didn't even thought about when it was filmed.
Yeah.
So when I looked it up, when I just watched this, I was surprised. I couldn't believe it. It was as
Yeah.
old as it is.
And if she hadn't been in it, I probably wouldn't have even questioned it as far as
Yeah.
it being a newer film because she was the only reason and I of course knew who she was and I had followed her career and so yeah, I knew she wasn't alive so I was like let me look it's 2006 so but I say all that to say like it holds up phenomenally well. It feels like a very new found footage.
Yeah. And
Um,
Robert Englund is great in it.
yeah,
I would watch him. I wish he did more.
I know.
I heard a really, this is a really on a tangent, but I heard a really
Mhm.
ridiculous story about Robert Englund, like an awesome story.
Oh, okay.
Um, do you know when he was like a young fledgling actor, you know who his roommate was?
Who?
Huge name. He'll never guess.
No.
Mark Hamill.
What?
Yeah, I read this. They were roommates, and supposedly Robert Englund is somehow responsible for getting Mark Hamill the role as Luke
As
Skywalker
Luke?
because he read for Han Solo. Robert Englund did,
I didn't know that either.
and when he
That's
went back
crazy.
to his apartment, he had like the script and he threw it down like on the table or something, and he basically was like, you should read for this to Mark Hamill, or Mark Hamill picked it up or something and started reading it. Yeah, and that the rest is history. Freddy Krueger and Luke Skywalker were roommates.
That is so funny. That's cool though. Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. So
The more you know.
there you go.
That's
You just
cool.
learned something. Rainbow, the more you know, right?
That's right. Yeah, I love Robert England, and I like Mark Hamill too, especially as a voice actor. I was just talking
Yeah.
about my love of Batman. Him as the Joker.
Oh, best.
So effective. Yeah, I think that Robert England, it's just fun. Everything he does is
Oh, yeah.
fun. And he just has this like presence and like he was kind of like our Loomis.
Oh, yeah. In
Yeah.
this movie, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
in this movie. In this movie, he's like our Loomis. Which I really I was really good with all I liked all of that stuff from the first part. I really did. When they go to the friend's house and he's like buried, I was
Yep.
like, what in the hell? I was
Well,
like,
that was awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
like
was great.
this retired this friend that he has, who the
Yes.
idea is like he basically retired from
Serial killing.
serial killing, and now he's just like a guy with a wife, and yeah, they dig him up. He's literally in like a sensory deprivation chamber underground, for no reason because
For
he
like
doesn't even
3
need to do
days
that.
or
Yeah, for
something.
3 days. That was really funny. That actor's not. Yeah, he's no longer alive either.
Herschel? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know
So
his real I just said his real name, but I already forgot what it was. The
yeah,
guy that plays,
yeah.
Herschel
He
from
passed
before.
away also.
He
Yeah.
passed away as well, yes.
Um, but yeah, the movie it treats these characters with it's just really cool. It treats them like they're like it's a legit intellectual interview, a real documentary, and that these are just run of the mill professions,
Mhm. Yeah.
and they do such a spectacular job of it. The idea is completely its own, and that's why I really do enjoy this movie. I just wish it stayed the
Stuck
course
with it.
and remained a found footage film for the entire thing. But maybe they wouldn't. I wonder, and I wonder this about other mockumentaries.
Mhm.
Do all of them think of? Do all of the creators of these movies think of their projects as found footage movies? Or do they
Oh,
think of them as mockumentaries? Is there a difference? We
mm.
haven't gone there yet on this series, but is there
Yeah.
a difference between horror mockumentaries and found footage? Like Blair Witch is obviously found footage, and a lot of these movies that have like the disclaimer at the beginning. This was found in this is police recovered footage or whatever.
Whatever it is.
People were never heard of again. Like that's found footage. VHS found footage.
Well, because found footage, it's in the name what it's supposed to
Found.
be.
Yeah.
So,
Like is something like this, which we have no indication that it was lost or found.
no,
It's just a documentary
it's a documentary. Yeah.
that takes itself seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know. What would the creators say? I wonder that watching a movie like this.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think you know what this is just a shot in the dark. Um, I think the ending is done the way that it is for maybe two possible reasons. One is because if you continue that down the path that the story takes with her being like the actual final girl, essentially,
Yeah.
we lose our legitimate reason for filming. If
Yeah.
she's continuing to carry a camera, or one of the guys or whoever has, because they have like, one camera
Mm-hmm.
unless they're setting it up, right? So we
Right.
would lose. I think it probably didn't make a whole lot of sense to do it that way. But I think the other thing is it was kind of like this moment of like, so, and after all of this background work into setting up what it's like to be a serial killer, this is our movie, and it's like the ending of like what it's
Yeah.
like to see this like really, cheapy kind of run of the mill slasher couple minutes or however long it is.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's really the only two things that I can think of as far as like maybe why it was done. Because and also too, maybe also why it works a little bit is because I do think it does alleviate the pressure of like, well, how do we make carrying a camera around? Because she can't flip down that silo thing and like do all these things if she's like trying to hold a camera. That like we'll lose that and be like, why don't we just leave the camera behind? I don't know. There's
Yeah.
just some things that I was thinking about after it. I think I just also like, I can watch some cheesy horror, but I think my horror cheesiness is limited to like monsters. I don't really like cheesy human, I don't know what you'd call them, like, but I don't like cheesy slashers. I don't like goofy,
Yeah.
funny slashers. And I think that's part of why the ending just didn't sit for me is because it was kind of silly. And it was
It
a
was.
silly
Yeah.
slasher. And I like serious
Yeah.
slashers. I don't know. That's like the only thing I could think of as to why it was like such a miss for me.
I wonder if it's sort of the people doing this. You assume they're
Mhm.
fans of slasher movies, huge
Mhm.
fans, and
Yeah.
really found footage, and so this was their chance to kind of make both movies.
Yeah.
But it does work too. Like there is a transition from the found footage movie into what she figures out. She's the final girl. I'm no longer filming this movie. I am now the movie. I'm in the
Part
movie.
of the
I'm
movie.
starring in the
That's a good
movie.
point. No,
So I
that's well
think
said.
that's what they would say probably. That's the
Yeah, that's well
artistic
said.
choice that they made at the end of this movie. So I respect that. But I'm watching a found footage movie, or at least I thought I was. Maybe I wasn't.
Yeah, the camera switching and stuff drives me nuts. And it's funny because I know we talked about this with Incantation. You didn't even notice the ones that I talked about.
No, that one I
But
didn't know.
but I think the reason is because they weren't very long. They were just a
Yeah,
couple of shots here or there. Whereas this is like chunks of the movie and then the whole ending. So it's a little
yep,
harder to kind of dismiss it when it's
yep,
that often, because then it becomes a found footage style movie versus
yep.
like a true, like found footage, or what I would consider like a true found footage film.
Now, if people thought this was just a slasher movie, watching it from that angle, they may have a different perspective on this.
Oh, probably.
But this is
Yep.
on like a lot of found footage movie lists, so I think it's important to know that it's not a found footage movie the whole way through. Spoiler.
Yeah. And if that's something that irks you, because I have another collaboration partner that he's like immediately out of it. If it does that, he cannot. That's like one of his biggest pet peeves. So he probably, I don't know if he would enjoy this one or not. But
That
yeah,
is usually
that's a good
huge.
point.
That's usually a huge problem for me. But I think in this movie, it wasn't an accident. It was an artistic choice.
It was it wasn't laziness,
No,
or like there's a method to that madness.
they
And
knew what they were doing. Yeah.
And I think if you like mockumentary style found footage, which I do,
Yep.
I think that people who enjoy that style of found footage, or whatever you want to call it, I think would like this. I think it's a very fun movie. And I think that all of the people that are in it do a great job, like we talked about. And even the gore sequences I thought were really good. His mask is actually pretty unsettling.
Yep.
And I loved all of these little pieces of like behind the scenes of being a serial killer. I thought that was really cool. I did really like the concept. It's really unique. And I think, and I don't always say this because I don't really know, but I think this may be one that after I've sat on it for a while, I may find that I like it more than I'm thinking I do right now. This ending just kind of was unexpected for me, and it kind of like threw me off of the things that I was liking about it.
I want to say again, the guy, whoever his name is, the guy who plays Leslie Vernon, I'm going to look it up right now.
Yeah.
Nathan Basil. I don't know. He sort of looks familiar. I don't know if I've seen him.
He does look really familiar. I agree.
Before, but he was just phenomenal.
He was great.
He's the best part of this movie.
Yep.
And I mean, both of the two main characters in this movie, him and the reporter, they're both really good.
No, I agree. But he definitely just has this like thing about him that when you're watching it, like you're really invested, I think.
Yep.
Because he is truly believable. Like, seems pretty legit. And I meant to say this when we were talking about the his friend that's the retired serial killer. I love the ending towards the ending when the reporter's like, well, what advice would you give someone who's trying to get away from someone like Leslie? And then he's saying all of this stuff. And then his wife is like, well, she says, all you got to do is just be faster than the person you're with. And then he's like, and then he says, they kind of go back and forth like cutesy little like, and he's like, that's what happened to you. Remember, she was like, yep, I was faster. And just like, I thought that was so funny. Like that's how they ended up married. She was his final girl. Like it was cute. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it's not a scary movie. It's
no.
It's the rare horror movie that's mostly humorous that I really enjoyed. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. No, it was a fun movie. I definitely think if you like found footage, if you're a fan of any of the things we've mentioned, mockumentary, slasher, horror comedies, definitely going to check some of those boxes, I think.
Absolutely. Add this to your list.
Yep.
Behind the Mask.
The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
We got it. We got the title right.
It took both of us, but we did it. Every time it's like, what's that movie called?
Not apparently a documentary about the making of Batman.
Which also I might be bitter about, which might be why I didn't. No, I'm just joking.
But maybe
that was a very weird 10 minutes.
I feel like you also need to put a link to that movie in this for everyone.
It's on Pluto. I'll put the name of it. It's like, but it's funny because it's like a docu-series called Behind the Mask, and there's like multiple episodes. Isn't that funny?
Well, I get you don't know that that's not found footage. You didn't watch far enough to find out.
No, because I knew if I didn't turn it off, I was going to get wrapped. I love Batman. Like
Okay.
I would have watched that instead of the movie I was supposed to
What's
be
your
watching.
favorite Batman?
My favorite like person who's played Batman
What Batman movie?
movie.
Is it Val Kilmer? Is it Val
Oh
Kilmer?
God, no, it's not Val Kilmer. No, it's Keaton. Michael Keaton is my favorite.
Yeah, of
The
course.
only person that is even close to him or even above him is Adam West
Well,
from the
yeah, but
60s.
that's not even like in the same
No,
there.
I know, but he still played Batman.
Yeah.
But no, Keaton's is my favorite.
Yeah.
I love the Tim Burton aesthetic. I loved all of the casting for both of those were so good. I love it. Michael Keaton was not only a phenomenal Bruce Wayne, but a great Batman. I really loved him a
He's
lot.
playing him again, right? I think.
Oh, for the
Yeah, Flash, yeah.
Is
Isn't
that
the
what
Flash?
it is?
Yeah, I think so. Something
I
like
can't
that.
remember. But yeah, he's my favorite. My least favorite is Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Not George
Gross.
Clooney. I don't know. It's pretty close. Him and George Clooney, also pretty bad.
Well, George Clooney at least was a decent Bruce Wayne. He played rich and handsome, fine, but and that was when they added, nipples to the bat suits. Bat suit and the Robin suit, and you're just like, and I am officially checked out of these.
Unnecessary. Things you did not think you'd be hearing us talk about.
Anyway, yeah. So,
well, that's this week's episode, right?
Yep.
Found Footage Fridays.
Yep. Next week, we're talking about the Dinosaur Project from 2012.
Is that a spoiler? See you then.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we got coming up next. So make sure you come back for that one. The only, I think, dinosaur found footage film in existence.
I can't imagine there's more than one.
And I can already tell you by Tom's comments, it's going to make for a very interesting episode. So, yeah. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this Friday. Hope you have a good weekend and a great week coming up, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.